What is up? Welcome to the episode. Today we are going to be chatting about dopamine because man, is this chemical misunderstood. So dopamine is a neurotransmitter. Neuro is just a fancy science term meaning brain, and transmitter meaning sending messages. And so dopamine sends messages between nerve cells. Super understandable, right? Now, you may have heard about folks talking about dopamine in terms of our phones. It's like, oh yeah, those dopamine hits, they're addictive and junk food. Dopamine, am I right? I've even seen folks online doing dopamine detoxes, which is actually physiologically impossible. However, I see where they're coming from. So let's break this stuff down into understandable and most importantly, actionable information that you can use, practically speaking, in your life. Dopamine is best understood as a learning or reinforcement chemical. For example, it is true that when we grab our phones and check out Instagram and see a bunch of likes on a photo, dopamine is released. But this isn't a bad thing. It just is. So being that dopamine is a learning and reinforcement chemical, our brains go, ooh, that felt good. Let's do more of that. It's also true that dopamine is released in response to something like exercise. The brain goes, ooh, that felt good. Let's do more of that. Dopamine is also released in response to eating junk food as well as eating healthful food. So what this means is that we essentially have a choice. And that choice is, what kind of fix do we want? Do we want the quote-unquote healthy fix or the unhealthy fix? We can get a hit of dopamine from opening up our phones or going for a run. We can get a hit from hitting the drive-thru or making a meal at home. And a massive part of this whole dopamine discussion is association. Meaning, if you have a negative association with exercise, it's going to take some time to rewire that relationship. However, it totally can be done. For example, plenty of my clients haven't been very keen on walking when they initially start working with me. And as you guys know, I'm huge on hitting 10K steps per day. And it takes a bit of time to reassociate with walking. However, I can't tell you how many times I've had clients say that they used to not even like walking all that much, and now they actually look forward to their daily strolls. They're quite often their favorite part of the day. So association is massive and totally malleable. When folks talk about dopamine detoxes, whether they're aware of it or not, they're not talking about detoxing dopamine like you detox from alcohol via eliminating it. What they're actually doing is directing their dopamine towards more productive or health-promoting behaviors instead of unproductive or detrimental health behaviors. And I don't mean good or bad here. I mean that there are things that have us thrive as humans, and there are things that aren't as congruent to thriving. For example, do you want a dopamine hit from alcohol or exercise? From television or a sunrise? From Doritos or some scrambled eggs and avocado? And this doesn't mean that you never drink, watch TV, or have another chip. What this means is that when we do these things as our habits or go-to behaviors, we tend to run into issues because these behaviors tend to spiral out of control and enter the snowball effect. On the contrary, we can actually implement the exact same strategy to rewire our brains, quite literally, to positively associate with more healthful behaviors and reinforce those instead of the ones that aren't conducive to feeling, looking, and performing our best. So, how do we make this actionable? Let's say that you feel like you need to decompress after a long day, and normally you plop down on the couch and scroll through your phone. That is an option. What's also an option is to go out for a walk in nature. That is an amazing way to decompress. Let's say that you need some comfort food, and normally comfort food means fast food. That's an option. However, so is picking up some healthful ingredients from the grocery store and making yourself a beautiful meal that has you feel nourished and cared for by you. This is an example of self-love, by the way. It's not some mystical term. Self-love is actionable. Let's say that you're feeling anxious, and normally you tend to pour yourself a glass of wine. That's an option. So is talking about what you're actually anxious about. And if you don't have anyone to talk to, no problem. Talk to yourself. Journal. What if those anxious thoughts and feelings just simply want to be acknowledged versus repressed? And once they're felt, they go on their way. I've experienced this personally tons of times. So dopamine is not bad. It essentially does what it's told. And the coolest part of this whole thing is that you are doing the telling via your actions. It's sort of like a well-behaved dog that's just sitting there and waiting for a command. The thing is, if you reward behaviors that you don't want to continue, all of a sudden you've got a not so well-behaved dog on your hands. Now, if you're looking to change that dog's behavior, there is going to be some transition time via the training process. A poorly behaved pup doesn't become a well-behaved one overnight. But if you stay consistent as far as discipline goes, it's only a matter of time. And another really cool aside is that once that dog is well-behaved, it's so much easier to simply maintain that behavior. There is far less effort required. Meaning, once your healthful habits are in place, by definition, they're easier to keep up because they are in fact habits now. You can think about it like folks who write code for computer programs. Once the code is written, the program just does its thing. Same idea here. Once the habit is in place, it becomes the default behavior. It was far tougher for me to eat healthfully before I had developed the habit of healthful eating. But now, making healthy decisions is far easier because A, it's semi-automatic and partially unconscious, and B, I associate single ingredient whole foods with feeling great, and I love feeling great. Who doesn't, right? When my clients and I work towards reassociation around their habits, they often actually begin to develop a negative association with things like funky foods because of the way that they make them feel. They often associate negatively with skipping their walk or getting a poor sleep because they feel it. And now they're aware of just how much better their sense of well-being is when they button up their lifestyle. It's pretty cool, right? So the question becomes, what do you want to change and reassociate with? And whatever just popped into your head, the way to do it is via consistent action. And that rewiring and reassociation will take place. It's not a matter of if it will happen, it's a matter of when it will happen. And the fewer deviations you have from that consistent action, the faster you're going to get those results. It's just like fat loss. The more consistent you can be with your nutrition, the faster you're going to lose fat. And the more you get on and off the fat loss wagon, the slower your results. I like to think about it like pit stops on a road trip. The more pit stops you take, the longer the trip. If you're interested in applying for one-on-one nutritional coaching and or workout design with me, you can click the link in the description below or head on over to n1fitness.com/coaching. On Instagram, I'm at N1Fitness. On TikTok, I'm at the N1Fitness. And on YouTube, I'm at Marcus Sadu. Don't forget to leave us a 5-star review on your favorite podcast platform and be sure to hit the subscribe button. Thanks so much for tuning in. I hope that you found this episode useful, and I will catch you on the next one. See ya.